friends, this is the Mrs. Volfie from our half acre homestead with a tea break. Well, it's not actually a tea break. It's I'm answering some questions that people have asked me. And because they're not going to be easy 1-word or 2-word answers, so I decided to write the questions down and share them with you. Melissa Nielsen wants to hopefully is moving to the country soon and wants to know how to start a garden and what is the best for the first-time gardener. Well, it depends. It depends on where you're moving to, what kind of soil you have. Do you have fields? Do you have woods? But let's, for argument's sake, say you have a nice patch of grass that you want to turn into a garden. The absolutely easiest way to do that, grass is notoriously tough to get rid of. The best way to do it, well, for me, what I did was when we replaced our roof, we had an old, almost flat tin roof. And when we took all the tin off, we saved it. And when I wanted to make a garden on the one spot that we had grass, I had my son and his friend put all the tin roofing neat and tidy, overlapping in a nice big square all over the grass. We weighted it down and we left it until the following year. That spring, because that will kill most of the grass. That spring, I bought a couple of rolls of biodegradable landscape fabric, and I put rows and rows and rows, and we took all the tin off, we put the landscape fabric down, staked it down with little stakes, and then brought in a truckload of soil, garden soil, because it was on top of our septic bed and it was gravel, a lot of gravel. There was grass, gravel. There wasn't really good soil. So every year since then, we've done things like every fall when we empty out the barn, it gets shoveled onto the garden. After the garden's emptied, the barn gets dumped onto the garden, spread out, and then covered with a black tarp. That helps cook it over the winter. And then spring, the tarp comes off and the barn stuff gets rototilled into the garden. So that's what we do. And the best things for beginners is it's really, really hard not to get excited and sow tons of stuff. But think about the staples. The easiest things to grow for beginners are things like tomato plants. Like you go out, buy tomato plants, stick them in the garden, okay? Know your zone. Know what zone you live in. When's the best time to plant? Like if you live in Canada or if you live up here where we live, don't try and grow sweet potatoes. It won't work. Or yams or whatever it is. So know what grows in your area and stick to the basics. The best bang for your buck is usually tomatoes, green beans, pickling cucumbers, turnips, and potatoes. Those are the main staples. And anything else you can probably, if you're moving to the country, you'll probably find a farmer's market so that you don't overwhelm yourself for the first time. But pick 2 or 3 things that you use all the time. Like if you buy green beans or if you buy tomatoes, canned tomatoes or spaghetti sauce all the time. Tomatoes are always a good bang for your buck. And do a lot of research, watch a lot of channels, watch a lot of gardening channels. I hope that helps. Ellen Fisher, do we eat our turkey eggs or do we hatch them out? Well, we pick the best ones for hatching and we hatch those out and the rest we eat. They are not much different than chicken eggs. They're just a little bit bigger. They're like a cross between a chicken and a duck egg. They're a little bit bigger than a chicken egg, but they're not as strong flavored as a duck egg, but they got the nice baking viscosity. They're great for baking. The only reason you never see turkey eggs for sale for eating is because they're worth too much when you hatch them out rather than eggs. But I have 4 hens, and if they all start laying, then, the best eggs will be kept for hatching, and Papa will eat a lot more omelets because they're delicious. Feed Me Bacon asks, isn't crossbreeding just another term for genetic modification? No. And I'm really kind of glad you asked that because this has been a pet topic of mine for years. Okay, because I can't believe how blind I was to our food and how it was destroying my health. Part of my food, our environment, and how it destroys our health. When I crossbreed different breeds of chickens, I'm still breeding chickens. It's chickens and chickens. It's not chickens and turkeys. I'm not crossbreeding two different kinds of bird. Okay. So that crossbreeding is just crossbreeding. I'm just making mutts. I'm not having true bloodlines. A hybrid is where you get two different kinds or breeds of the same species. Like a horse and a donkey, when you breed them, you'll get a mule. A lion and a tiger, you'll breed them, you'll get a liger. 9 times out of 10, those animals are sterile. However, that's what a hybrid is, okay? Genetic modification goes way beyond trying to interbreed two different animals of the same species, okay? Like dogs and wolves, all right? Genetic modification is where they will take a specific desired trait in genetic form from one species, and they will cross the species genome and connect it with another, like a plant and a bird, okay? Try and breed a plant and a bird. It just doesn't work. And it doesn't want to work in nature either. Genetic modification doesn't happen in nature. Hybridization occasionally happens in nature. Crossbreeding happens in nature. Genetic modification does not. Do you know how they cross that genome? And don't tell me it's impossible to breed, to genetically cross plants and animals, because they do it all the time. Okay? What they do is they take the desired trait in genetic form from one species, they infect it with a virus or attach it to a virus, and then they infect the gene of the other species. It's an invasion that can't happen in nature. Fireflies, okay? We want glow-in-the-dark trees. Glow-in-the-dark trees would make really, really nice. They would replace lampposts. They would be they're non-invasive. They would just, they would be great, right? Glow-in-the-dark trees. So you take the genetic trait of the firefly that makes its phosphorescence glowing thing belly light up, and you inject it into a virus, and you infect it with the virus, and then you make the virus infect the gene of a specific tree, and it will glow in the dark. Sounds like science fiction? Look it up. That crap actually happens. They are making phosphorescent plants. This kind of stuff doesn't happen in nature. So to answer your question, and it was really long and I'm sorry, no, crossbreeding is nowhere near genetic modification. And Nancy wants to know how to make extracts. That she said she watched my making vanilla with vegetable glycerin and vanilla bean pods. And she asked if she could do it with mint. Sure, I don't see why not. However, there are other ways. The only reason I use glycerin is because I am an alcoholic in recovery, and I don't want to keep a bottle of vodka in my house for whenever I feel like making an extract. But if you go, they've been doing it for hundreds of years. You go back and read that Little House in the Prairie book, Farm Boy. Almanza Wilder loved when it was sugaring off time. He would paw over through the snow over the south slopes for wintergreen berries. And he would eat the wintergreen berries. But his mother would harvest wintergreen leaves, stuff them in a jar, and pour whiskey on them and put a lid on them and put them in her pantry for flavoring her Christmas cakes. So, I mean, you got a good, food grade grain alcohol or strong vodka. If you want to make peppermint extract, use peppermint leaves, fill a little jar, put vodka on it, put the lid on it, put it in your pantry. 6 weeks, 7 weeks down the road, I'm getting sweaty, I'm sorry. Strain it, and there's your flavoring. It's no different than vanilla, doing it with vanilla beans. You can do it with just about anything. You can do it with mint, peppermint, anything that gives you flavor in plant form, you can probably do it with an extract. Okay? This is the Mrs. Volfie from our half-acre homestead saying, I think what I'm going to do, instead of just random tea breaks, if folks, if you have a question for me that you would like me to answer like this, please email me at mrsvolfie@gmail.com and write question for video in the subject bar. And if I get enough of them on Fridays, I will do this. All right? Take care. God bless.